Well, hello YouTube, it's me, Fortmaster, and welcome back to another game theory reaction. And this one is, this 10-year-old detail solves FNAF. So again, at this point, FNAF is 10 years old. Earlier in August was the 10-year anniversary, and there was a whole week of special FNAF. They've released the demo to, oh god, what was the kart racers called? 5 Laps at Freddy's? They released the new FNAF, I guess what do you call it, side game? That's based off one of the first stories, Into the Pit. There's a whole thing with like they released the first of the Choose Your Own Adventure books, which I remember I've looked through, and that's just fun. It's been a long time since I've read a Choose Your Own Adventure book. Jeez. And yeah, just, you know, a whole bunch of stuff, as well as teasers for the next Five Nights at Freddy's movies. It was absolutely insane. But this, the 10-year-old detail, I think if memory serves, this might have something to do with FNAF 2, I think. Because if I remember correctly, John FNAF released a video not that long ago talking about, oh god, something. I remember he released a video not that long ago. What was it? Clue that solves Golden Freddy, Secrets of the Mimic trailer reaction. Oh yeah, that was another thing that was released during the week. Midnight Motorist, games. Okay, maybe it wasn't FNAF I was thinking of. What was I thinking of? Either way, I know that there's been some talk in a couple of circles about like re-looking and re-examining like the very earliest games to see like if there's anything there that could help us, you know, figure out the new lore. And evidently Game Theory has. So yeah, this either has something to do with like some sort of weird detail that was like, I guess, glossed over in either FNAF 1 or FNAF 2, which I'm actually really excited because it's been a long time since I've actually thought about those games like properly. Because it's been a long time since I've looked at anything from them. Probably, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe I'll go back and watch Markiplier's old playthrough. Oh, that'd be fun. Anyway, let's actually get into this. So yeah, of course, as always, original video is linked in the description if you haven't seen it for some reason. Corner video will lead to my film theory reaction, and yeah, with all that out of the way, let's get this thing started then, shall we?
Take a look at this footage from FNAF 2. Seems normal enough, right? But what if I told you that the Mimic is in this video? No, I'm not lying to you. And
I'm
no,
sorry, what?
I've not doctored the footage either. The Mimic is here. They have been here since the very beginning. Give up? Well, if you look very closely, you'll find that the Mimic is this guy right here.
Paper Pals. Okay, okay. I mean, I guess that makes sense. So wait, if memory serves, so the Paper Pals, so you got the Bonnie one, you have the Bear Freddy one, and then there was the one that was just sort of like a clown. I mean, thinking back, I mean, I think we all just assumed it was like Balloon Boy or something like that. I mean, maybe? I mean, given what we saw in the Mimic trailer with it having like a weird clown getup. Maybe. Let's see.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Game Theory, the show that cannot believe it has been 10 whole years of FNAF. Feels like just yesterday I was watching Markiplier scream at this tiny, unknown indie game and...
Oh my god. Him having, like, just under 3 million subscribers, and he's literally at 10 times that now. Oh god. Those were the days.
Now, it's an indie horror empire full of games, movies, books, and more merch than a Pizzaplex can handle. 10 years is a big deal. Believe me, we would know. And so to celebrate, Scott pulled out all the stops. We got an anniversary week full of fanverse games, demos, books, movie teasers, and of course, the crown jewel that was Into the Pit. Though while that game offers a lot in the way of theorizing, that's not what I wanted to talk about today. Don't worry, that video is coming. I just need a little more time. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that video when it drops. There may also be a special theorist surprise in store. Hint, hint. But for this
okay, either it's going to be another video where MatPat comes in, or is that going to be one of those big crossover weeks where every like theorist channel does something on theme?
last episode, instead of talking about the biggest release of the week, I wanted to talk about the biggest surprise. You see, we knew about every release that was happening during this anniversary week ahead of time. That was except
the collab announcement.
Steel Wool had a mystery announcement slot, and a lot of us just assumed it was going to be DLC for Help Wanted 2, but that's not what we got. Instead, Steel Wool completely sideswiped us by revealing a 40-second teaser, not for DLC, but for a brand new game. We open on a 70s style carpet. The camera tilts up to reveal a Jack-in-the-Box playing music.
Box,
the music stops, the box opens, and we hear a laugh as a clown mask peeks out from the box. The film reel we're watching begins to burn up, revealing the date 1979.
Oh, I didn't see that. Hold me, I never paused it, so what do I expect?
Finally, we see a title card appear from the darkness.
Secret of the Mimic.
The internet lost their collective minds over this. Not only were we getting a game exploring the character that was a complete mystery when it appeared at the end of Ruin, unless you happen to read the books, but it was also going to be a prequel, set before any other FNAF game. A lot of us have been theorizing about the origins of Freddy's ever since we got the Fredbear Singing Show ticket in Security Breach, and in 2025, it looks like we're gonna see if we were right. But you know what? I'm not willing to wait that long. Call me impatient, but when you take a closer look, this 40-second teaser has actually told us a lot more than you'd initially think. This teaser confirms that we were right that the Mimic is from the earliest days in Fazbear Entertainment's history, but it
again, the weird kind of flicky teeth, that's weird.
It also suggests that the Mimic's first appearance wasn't in Ruin, nor was it Security Breach, nor was it Help Wanted. No, we are being shown that the Mimic has actually been hiding in plain sight since the very beginning. The pieces were in place for us to figure it out. We just weren't able to follow the breadcrumb, or should I say, paper trail to realize sooner. So
okay, retcon!
Wind up that music box, friends,
I mean,
because
it's
when it
not a bad
opens,
thing.
we'll
I mean,
be diving in head first
that,
to see what
makes more
secrets the
sense.
Mimic has been hiding. And in doing so, I believe we may finally be able to resolve one of the biggest conflicts currently facing the FNAF timeline.
A wound first inflicted on me.
Oh yeah, today's gonna be a big one,
okay.
so let's get into it. The first thing we gotta talk about is the design of Funky Tom over here. Jokey fan name aside, given the title of this game, it feels pretty unlikely that this is supposed to be anything other than the Mimic. But he's not the disheveled Endo we saw in Ruin. Now he's wearing a white mask with exaggerated eyelashes, rounded cheeks, and a bright red nose. Ugh, I can feel the childhood trauma rushing back. It also pops out of a Jack-in-the-Box, so clearly Steel Wool are going for a clown aesthetic with this newest version of the Mimic. Or is it the oldest version? This new old look does tie into our previous theories about the origins of Fazbear Entertainment. In that video, we discussed this poster from Help Wanted 2. A poster with a circus tent and the date 1970 on it. That, along with the mascot costumes in the ruined basement, Glitch Trap's design, official artwork of traditional mascot costumes, and references throughout the books all seem to be telling us that Fazbear Entertainment didn't start with the creation of Fredbear's Family Diner, but as a traveling circus. Instead of the animatronics or springlock suits that we know and love today, this circus used more traditional, rudimentary mascot costumes. They were still the same characters, Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica, but played by human performers. Though there was one exception. We ended that theory suggesting that the Mimic was also part of that same Fazbear circus. It shares design similarities with Sun and Moon, a jester who was associated with the carousel from the Fall Fest circus, a carousel that we watch burn. Repeatedly in Help Wanted 2, we see the festival burn down both in the carousel level and in the Fazablast level. And what else do we know is burnt? The Mimic. In the first epilogue of Tales from the Pizzaplex, when the Mimic arrives, it is first described as being burnt. Thus, it seems like the Mimic has been here since that Fall Fest in the 70s. You might think I was celebrating this fact. My first FNAF theory was right, let's go! But then, the worry began to sink in. It always feels a bit wrong.
Yeah, the problem with that is, the Mimic's been here the entire time, buried underground. How does that fit in with literally anything else that's happening in the franchise at the moment? That's the major question right now.
When a prequel introduces a new character. Plus, this franchise never gets rid of characters. We've had 28 versions of Freddy, 19 versions of Bonnie, and we even got 11 versions of Balloon Boy. Who asked for that? So
11 versions? So there's Balloon Boy, Phantom Balloon Boy, Nightmare Balloon Boy, There's Balloon Boy from FNAF World. Nightmare Balloon Boy from FNAF World. Was Phantom Balloon Boy in FNAF World as well? Jeez, there's a lot of FNAF World ones.
So then, why try to awkwardly insert the Mimic into the previous lore? I mean, retcon much?
Very much so, yes.
I told you we have seen this clown before. Somewhere you'd never suspect. FNAF 2. I am, of course, talking about the characters I've been teasing since the start of the episode. The Paper Pals. No, I wasn't joking. These guys really are the key to everything. If you don't know who I'm talking about, the Paper Pals are these simple characters made from paper plates that have been hanging out on the walls of pizzerias ever since their introduction. To this day, we've never really given them much thought. They never seem to be that important, but their continued existence in the franchise has always struck me as unusual. In fact, the only reason I was reminded of them is because I was watching Dorko's playthrough of Into the Pit, and wouldn't you know it, they are once again just hanging out. For them to keep showing up, especially in these modern titles, they have to be important. And I think the weird clown mimic is the piece that ties them all together. Originally, there were three of these guys. A Freddy pal, a Bonnie pal, and this thing. According to the game files, he's just called Paper Buddy. And of the three, he's definitely the weird one. In FNAF 2, he could just disappear from the wall and suddenly appear in your office. He didn't do anything, he was just there now. Even his design feels out of place. The other two are clearly characters we know, Freddy and Bonnie, duh. But this guy doesn't have any recognizable features. He's got red arms, blue legs, a big smile, and a big nose. It's just so weird. In a series full of
giant cartoon animals, the one thing that's not an animal is the thing that sticks out.
Animal characters, why have this generic humanoid-looking thing? Naturally, the only logical explanation we had at the time is that this had to be Balloon Boy. He was one of the few humanoid characters we knew about by FNAF 2, and he wears a red and blue outfit. But now that I'm looking back, I'm not so sure anymore. For Bonnie and Freddy, we aren't just relying on the colors to show us who they are. They have extra design details that connect them to their iconic characters. Bow ties, hats, ears, that sort of thing. If this Paper Buddy was supposed to be Balloon Boy, why not give him some of his iconic attire? Like the propeller hat, or the sign, or, you know, a balloon. The thing he is literally known for. What this therefore implies to me is that Paper Buddy is actually supposed to be someone else. Someone with a much simpler design. And the answer of who becomes extremely obvious when you take a look at their appearance in FNAF World. That's right, not only were these guys considered important enough to be playable characters in one of the weirdest entries in this series, but Scott also used it to give us a vital clue about who this guy was supposed to be. And it's all because of one teeny tiny design change. We've gone over Paper Buddy's design already. The red arms, blue legs, buttons, big smile, happy eyes, big nose. All of that is the same in FNAF World, except for his nose. It's still as big as before and it's in the same place, but the color is now different. It's been changed to red. And a red nose means one thing: clowns. What we're seeing is Paper Buddy's design matching exactly with the iconic design of clowns. And therefore,
I mean, except he doesn't have like the red cheek blush. Is that what it's actually called? I forget, it doesn't matter.
So matches what we've seen from the Mimic in this latest teaser. Now, I recognize that this feels like a stretch. This is all down to interpretation and could be taken a number of different ways. Believe me, I was honestly unsure of all of this too. That was until I found this. The final clue that absolutely sealed the deal for me that Paper Buddy is the Mimic. Take a look at the attacks the Paper Pals have in FNAF World. The first two are Prize Ball 2 and Mystery Box 2. Both generic attacks that would make sense for any character in any pizzeria. But the third and final attack is called something very specific: Mimic Ball. A move that mimics the last attack used.
I mean, honestly, I don't know whether to say that's like, that clue is brilliant or very stupid. Honestly, it could go either way.
I could not believe it when I saw this. Of all of the games, it was FNAF World showing us that the Paper Pals were specifically able to mimic others. The third Paper Pal from FNAF 2, Paper Buddy, is a paper version of the new clown mimic that we saw in the teaser. In my previous theory, I mentioned how FNAF 2 isn't a revamp of the old franchise, but a callback to the circus origins of the franchise. The Red Cheeks toy animatronics were calling back to the original costumes worn at the circus. You have the carousel calling back to the carousel from Fall Fest that we got to see in Help Wanted 2.
Also thinking, that carousel that was in FNAF 2, that's a very tiny carousel. Like, that reminds me of, like, some that I think I may have remember seeing, like little coin-operated ones you'd see at, like, the mall or in Walmart when they had, like, little play areas set aside for kids by the checkouts. Like, man, those things are tiny.
And now we have Paper Buddy, calling back to the clown mimic that was present at that same circus. It all just fits together so neatly. It could also explain the clown mask in things like Sister Location, the one that would later go on to become Ennard. Why is that mask in such a position of prominence? Because it was the third member of that original circus trio, someone who had been there since the beginning. Although, speaking of trio, while Paper Buddy being the mimic and appearing in FNAF 2 makes sense, him being grouped with Freddy and Bonnie feels a bit odd, right? Even for the early days of the franchise, a clown isn't the obvious one to pair with Freddy and Bonnie. Chica I'd have understood, maybe even Foxy, but this guy is just so random. If you've followed us for a while, you'll know that we are obsessed with these kinds of details. The grouping of animatronics through merchandise or decor can often tell us a lot about the history of the franchise. We felt like Foxy had to come later because he had a separate stage to the other three. It felt like Chica wasn't originally part of the group either because she had her own Party World spin-off during Sister Location. And in Ruin, we figured out that Sun and Moon came much earlier because they were getting collectibles alongside OG characters, while newcomers like Roxy and Monty weren't. So placing the Mimic Clown alongside Freddy and Bonnie has to imply there's a special connection between the three. So why make the Mimic the awkward third wheel alongside this famous duo? Well, it turns out the rule of threes isn't just an important literary technique. It was also super important for performances at the circus, particularly when it comes to clowns. In a traditional circus, you would have three major clown archetypes: the Auguste Clown, the White-Faced Clown, and the Contra-Auguste Clown. We spoke about the Auguste Clown.
Yeah, I've never heard of... I think I've heard Auguste Clown before. I'd never heard of the other ones, but I thought all clowns were white-faced.
And in our previous theory, these clowns were the ones with red cheeks that were designed to appear silly and make children laugh. Often they were portrayed as an intelligent but lower class clown, the laborer, the one who would do a job, often badly, which led to them getting a pie in the face or falling off a ladder, you know, the typical slapstick stuff. The white-faced clowns, on the other hand, are supposed to be more serious and bossy. They were of a higher status, and so they would be responsible for assigning the tasks to the Auguste Clown and would often become frustrated at their failed results. Finally, you have the Contra-Auguste Clown, who was the middle ground. Still lower class than the White-Faced Clown, but not to the same degree as the Auguste Clown. And looking into clown literature, which, yes, is a thing that I read,
oh god, the words clown literature were not something I expected to hear in a FNAF theory.
Contra-Auguste's role was to do one thing: mimic the white-faced clown. No, I'm not making that up. It was right there on the page in front of me. What we now have are three distinct characters: a serious boss clown, a smart worker clown, and a mimicking clown. Now, look at who we have at the start of Freddy's. While we don't know a whole lot about the specifics of this Fazbear Circus, we do know one thing: Henry and William were actively performing during the early days of the franchise, one as a bear and one as a rabbit, Fredbear and Spring Bonnie. William was the businessman, the serious one, the guy who was trying to make Fazbear a success, the white-faced clown. Then there's Henry, the intelligent laborer who was building the animatronics, the Auguste Clown. And now we have a third, Paper Buddy, the Mimic, a clown animatronic that has been there since the early days of the franchise, now mimicking the past actions of the white-faced clown, William Afton, making them the Contra-Auguste in this trio. Three clowns, three performers, three paper pals that have been there since the start.
Geez, okay, maybe that, I guess that does, you know, add some legitimacy to the whole thing of the mimic being so early. I mean, hey, I mean, it's like, you had, if William and Henry, their whole thing initially was a circus, that would probably mean that they couldn't find another sucker to be their third clown, so they literally just made one. That would also potentially, so, depending on the whole thing of where Glitch Trap comes from, if he's like, yeah, because that's one of the other things, like, where did Glitch Trap came from? Because originally, he came from, like, old circuit boards, so was he, like, some discarded or outdated version of the Mimic program that had mimicked Afton so much that he started thinking that he was Afton? Or, like, was he actually, like, the whole thing with, like, he's like the digitized soul of William Afton or something like that? Okay, never mind. We're getting off track here with Glitch Trap.
But sadly, choosing Afton to be the one to mimic wasn't the best decision. When this trailer was announced, Brian Freyamuth, the design director at Steel Wool, tweeted about it saying, "The evil that men do lives after them. The good is oft interred with their bones." This is a quote from Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. My immediate reaction was, oh yeah, this is about Afton being dead, and now his evil lives on in the mimic, who is now continuing to hurt and kill people beyond his death, like we've been predicting this whole time. But as I've thought it over, I think it might be something more than that. I actually think that this line is telling us the main plot point that we will see in Secret of the Mimic. A plot point that will finally answer the question that has haunted me ever since the release of Help Wanted 2. What did Henry mean by a wound first inflicted on me? This line comes from the insanity ending of FNAF 6. Henry talks about how Afton used the souls of the children he'd killed to create Remnant, and then continued to torture them to create the fun times. But the most important part of that monologue is when he turns inwards and begins reflecting on his own part in all of this. He ends up saying he needs to heal this wound, a wound first inflicted on me, one that I let bleed out. For the longest time, we believed this was referencing Afton killing his daughter, Charlie. She was Afton's first victim, which led on to the killing of all the missing children. That was the wound that was inflicted on Henry, the death of his own daughter, that then bled out to the death of so many others. But then Help Wanted 2 came out, and it flipped that entire idea on its head. In that game, we had to light 6 gravestones in a specific order to receive the secret Bonnie mask. Each grave had a different puppet next to it, each referencing one of the 6 main animatronics: Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, Golden Freddy, and the puppet, the 5 missing children, and Charlie. However, Charlie isn't the first grave you light. She's actually the last one, heavily implying that Charlie was the last to be killed. Honestly, I don't hate it from a lore standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, it does make sense, because like, why else would, like, they have the security puppet, the thing that was originally supposed to, you know, save kids? I mean, you wouldn't build something like that if there wasn't a precedent of, you know, kids being in danger. And it's not until that, like, either from bullying or something like that, that the puppet was locked in its box by the other kids, which left an opening for William to come in and do his murderous thing.
There's a decent amount of evidence that can line up with it, but by suggesting that, it threw into question that line of a wound first inflicted on me being about Charlie's death.
Okay, well, I just thought of something. So, going back to FNAF 2, it's shown, you know, the puppet, possessed by Charlie, is the one who put the bodies in the animatronics so that they could possess them and live back on, you know, give gifts, give life. So how does that fit with Chica being the first? Oh, I'm gonna have to go on the Reddit and ask that. I'm genuinely confused myself now.
Instead, there had to be an earlier incident that wounded Henry that would metaphorically bleed out, leading to the missing children's incident and the death of Charlie. So, what do I think this event is? Well, it all comes back to that Shakespeare quote. The line that Brian tweeted is delivered by the character Mark Antony at Caesar's funeral. Caesar was murdered by the character Brutus. However, Antony isn't able to directly accuse him publicly. So instead, he tactfully talks around the issue, calling Brutus an honorable man. This dynamic between Antony and Brutus, I suspect, is meant to be a reflection of Henry and Afton. Brutus was able to get close to Caesar because Caesar loved him, which is similar to the tactic used by Afton throughout this series. Put on the Spring Bonnie costume, a character that the children loved, and use it to lure them into a back room and kill them. For this quote to be used to promote the prequel game from 1979, it's telling us that Afton was abusing the love of this character way before the missing children's incident. And this early murder at the hands of Afton is what I believe we will be seeing in Secret of the Mimic. Maybe it will even be revealed as Afton's first. It's unclear if the person Afton kills will be a major character like Caesar is in the play, or whether it's just another kid, with the importance more being how early it is in the timeline. We only have a 40-second trailer after all. Much
literally,
more is going to be revealed as time goes on. But what is important is if William is Brutus, Henry must be Antony, and that means he knew William committed the murder. That murder is going to be the wound inflicted on Henry, on the Fazbear business, on their friendship. That murder could have destroyed everything they'd built. But as we know, it didn't, and Afton would go on to kill again. Because just like Antony, Henry isn't going to accuse him directly. Maybe he was concerned for his business's survival. Maybe he was concerned about providing for his new daughter, Charlie. Maybe he just wanted to believe his friend could change. But whatever his reasoning, despite the wound Afton caused him, he never came out and admitted what he knew. He just allowed it to keep going, allowed Afton to keep killing. English philosopher John Stuart Mill once said, a person may cause evil to others, not only by his actions, but by his inaction. And in either case, he is justly accountable to them for the injury. That is why he feels so guilty in the insanity speech, because he knows that his inaction in that moment from the circus led to the creation of not one, not two, but 3 monsters. William, the yellow rabbit that would go on to kill so many children, the clown that was designed to mimic Afton, now carrying on his horrible legacy, and himself, the man who stood by and let the first murder happen, leading to the deaths of so many others, including his own daughter. I guess at the end of the day, they really were the perfect trio. But hey, I think we can...
Oh God, again, I do love, I mean, granted, I mean, there's, in the early games, there's so much that was so vague and stuff like that. I can totally understand, like, finding a little tiny little insignificant piece, like, oh, you know, the design of one of these, like, seemingly haunted wall decorations, and using that as, like, the basis for building off future lore. I mean, being able to do that is truly a mark of a good writer if you're able to do it properly. Now, again, you know, the next game isn't coming out till next year, so we're gonna have to see whether it is done properly, but you never know. I mean, just going back to the whole thing with, you know, Charlie putting, you know, the first 5 into the animatronics, even though she wasn't the first to be murdered, I have to wonder, like, was it just a matter of, like, oh, she put them into the animatronics and they partially remembered the murders that happened afterwards? That's why Chica can say, oh, I was the first, I saw everything, because she was a ghost before then, and then she was tethered to the animatronics once her body was put into it, or something like that? I don't know. So yeah, I guess with all that out of the way, we should probably call this to an end. So, of course, as always, original videos linked in the description if you haven't seen it yet for some reason. Corner video will lead to my film theory reaction. And yeah, with all that out of the way, I hope you guys liked. If you did, leave a like, subscribe if you have not, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.